Before we talk about chords, let's talk about intervals. Intervals are simply the distance between two notes, contextualized by a scale. For example, B is always the fifth degree up from E, whether it's major or minor, and so we call them a perfect fifth. Another, more complex example is E and G sharp. G sharp is the third degree up from E, but only in the scale with E major, so we call them a major third. Different intervals carry different qualities, and that's what makes them so interesting to experiment with. Chords are simply multiple notes being played simultaneously. It's arguable whether dyads are considered a chord or rather just the implication of one, so let's instead talk about triads, a chord containing three notes. Typically, a triad contains the root note, the third degree, and the fifth degree. These notes can be played in any order across the keyboard though, which is called inversion. In first inversion, the first note of the chord becomes the highest. In the second inversion, the second note becomes the highest, and this logic carries on until you return to the root note being the lowest again, in which we say the chord is being played in root position. Chords can also be played differently by spreading notes out wider across the keyboard, which is called voicing. The wider the spread of notes, the more open the voicing is. Experimenting with inversions and voicings can be a great way to expand your musical vocabulary without having to do much. Just playing the notes in different orders and in different octaves can drastically affect the sound of the chord. You can also shift the notes in the chord around, which is called augmenting or diminishing. Augmenting is pushing a note up a semitone, and diminishing is the opposite. A triad with an augmented third can resolve nicely back to its unaltered form, whereas a triad with a diminished fifth can introduce some intense dissonance owed to its inclusion of the tritone interval. Altering chords in this way can open up some interesting opportunities for writing chord progressions. An easy and versatile way to add color to a chord is to simply add extra notes to the chord, like playing a major triad with a second in there and a major seventh on top to make it shine, or a minor triad with a major seventh and sixth to build some dramatic tension, or stacking a bunch of thirds on top of each other just to see how bright it can get. Experimenting with this can lead to some really interesting harmony that might have been left unfound through more methodical approaches. In the next video, I'll talk about chord progressions. Thanks for watching.